I kind of want to start today by framing a question for you. When was the last time that you bought really anything, both for what it was, but also what it could be? And what I mean by that is something that you're completely at peace with your initial purchase, but there's more that you can do with it. You can see it for more than just what it is. And for me, I'm pretty excited to say that that was actually just about 3 weeks ago now when I picked up my ThinkPad X230. This is going to be kind of my, for now at least, my kind of end game ThinkPad. I see myself using this device every day. I don't plan on kind of changing anything else about it. And I'm looking forward to kind of talking about how we got to that place and sort of everything that's going on there. So without further ado, let's talk about my new to me, but also kind of lived in at this point, very customized ThinkPad X230. So I guess I want to start by saying that pretty much everything that I've done is kind of oversaturated at this point. I don't mean to kind of rain on my own parade, but fundamentally the ThinkPad X230 is a pretty popular platform when we look back on these older ThinkPad models, and it's cool. It's great. I mean, that's how I knew that this was going to be kind of an avenue to go down. But if you're seeing this video, you've probably seen other videos about people kind of doing all of these same mods on their ThinkPad X230s. And for that reason alone, I don't want to spend like too much time getting into like the nitty gritty details of, kind of all the pieces here. But I do want to at least kind of do a high level overview. This video is also going to kind of have a lot of overlap with some of the things that I talked about before when I talked about core-booting my T530. I guess the cat's kind of out of the bag. With the arrival of the X230, the T530 is gone. I did a kind of one-for-one trade. We replaced the socketed CPU for a soldered one, and I actually lucked out with this device. I've been super stoked with it beyond just the fact that it was a nice condition X230. So I ordered this device, and from the get-go, I kind of had a plan here. So with the T530, I'd had it for a while. I core booted it. I was running FreeBSD on there. I had Arch on there. I was really happy with it, just kind of overall. But one of the lingering things that I was kind of at odds with was whether or not I was going to put the classic keyboard on there. Eventually, I kind of decided that I wasn't going to, but I was very motivated to sell the T530 and just kind of part ways with that machine. There was nothing wrong with it. I do want to clarify that, just in case the guy who bought it is watching this video. Nothing wrong with it. Just needed it gone. The purchase of the X230 was inspired by how much I love my X201. The format, the keyboard, the size of it, I mean, just the X201 is a great machine, and I do think that for a lot of things it's completely usable even now. But there's just certain places where using the X201, I wished that it was my T530. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what drove me to seek out an X230, was I kind of wanted to combine those two devices, and I think the X230 is pretty close to that. It's not the same 16:10 aspect ratio. We do lose a little bit of screen real estate, but what we do get is another 12-inch ThinkPad that's compatible with a 7-row keyboard and has the same specs, actually identical specs, at least to my T530 that I recently parted ways with. And so the experience here for me has been honestly great. I went into this wanting to replace the T530 with something closer to the X201. Once I knew that I could do the X220 keyboard mod on the X230, everything just kind of fell into place. I got a 9-cell battery. I got a X220 keyboard for a pretty reasonable price. Then it was just kind of a waiting game. The ThinkPad showed up, and I used it for a while. The battery that came with it was actually completely dead, and so was the CMOS. So I had it plugged into the wall, and while it was plugged into the wall, I ran NixOS on it for probably about a week. That was fun. I hadn't used Nix outside of a virtual machine, so this was my first time kind of using it on bare metal. And it was nice. I think I went through like 27 system iterations or something like that. Once the parts started showing up, I decided that I just wanted to go back to kind of just something that I could mess with and work with a little bit easier without having to learn as much. I think I will return to Nix when there's a kind of right time and place for it. But for now, I've returned to Arch on the X230 here, and that's been a good experience. I used it just kind of as it was. Once the new battery and the new CMOS showed up, I decided to get a 9 cell. It's not a Lenovo one, it's an aftermarket. I think it's Chinese, just like the X201 battery, and so far so good. Battery life is acceptable. Everything but cycle count works once I got the TLP set up, so that's pretty good, and no other complaints there. The CMOS I got showed up same day as the battery did, and that was pretty nice. I will say, despite the fact that I had the X220 keyboard on the way, for that like kind of week in between, I was actually really happy with the chiclet keyboard that came with this machine. The X230 that I ordered did not come with the backlit keyboard. It came with the no backlight option, and oddly enough, I just want to kind of comment on this before we talk about the X220 keyboard on here. The non-backlit variant of the chiclet keyboard, I think, for these 3rd gen ThinkPads actually feels way better than the backlit one did. I think it kind of makes sense. I imagine that the keys are maybe emptier, or there's some kind of arrangement going on to get the lights working, but the non-backlit one is much closer to that more tactile feel that you expect out of the 7 row. And so I really did actually enjoy typing on this machine. After using my X201 for the last little while, I was really just kind of counting the days here. Once it showed up, the mod itself is nothing too crazy. There's a lot of other videos on YouTube that cover the process. I don't think I actually got a lot of B-roll for this, but basically there's a pin underneath the mouse buttons that you completely cut off, and then there's a couple more that are supposed to kind of lock into the palm rest that you have to trim a little bit. I ended up kind of just completely cutting these off. I butchered this whole thing. It's not perfect, but it fits well, it looks good, and I honestly can't really tell the difference when I look at it unless I'm really looking for it. So I will take it, you know, we take the victories that we can get where we can get them. So once the keyboard's installed, all you have to do is the EC flash. There's some taping involved. I kind of skipped over that. I did this wrong. There's a fuse that blows if you don't do the tape, and it burnt out right in front of my eyes. The keyboard's fine, the ThinkPad's fine. Testament to the build quality here. But yeah, I did that wrong. It's taped up correctly now, but I don't actually think it matters because it's burned anyway. There's like literally a hole in the ribbon cable, but we live and learn. Next time I'll do it right, if there is a next time, but otherwise, you know, it's good for the history books. So keyboard mod is done. Now there's a repository, you take the EC flash image, you put it on a USB drive and you run it. It upgrades your BIOS to, I think it's 2.7, and it puts the same keyboard profile for the 7 row on there. Effectively, it's just a change in the key maps, and it gets the function rows and all the extra keys up top working. Remaps the ThinkLight from function space back to function, it's like page up or print screen or something, but it's good, it works, all is well. Once that was done, I took a little bit of a different route than I did with the T530. On the T530, I did Ivory Bridge first, and then I did skulls, and then I did a custom Coreboot image. As of right now, I combined all these into one step, and I actually just skipped the custom Coreboot image at the end. You can host your own ROMs on your local network, so long as you can plug your ThinkPad into Ethernet to kind of facilitate this whole thing. And during the Ivory Bridge process, you can actually just flash a Coreboot ROM or a modified Lenovo BIOS or whatever you want to do. And so in my case, this morning, I just grabbed the latest Skulls image, I threw it up on a little local web server, plugged Ethernet into the X230, and proceeded with the Ivory Bridge flash. Once again, you just put that on a thumb drive and boot into it. There's a step in the Ivory Bridge kind of process where you can point it to a local endpoint. You just take the IP of the device that you're working with along with the kind of port and the file name. It does the flash, the device goes to sleep for a second, and then you wake it back up. and everything's done. I wanted to try this route this time because it's mentioned kind of everywhere, but there's not a lot of like actual documentation or proof of success for people doing this. It didn't feel like that big of a risk. They kind of repeat a couple of times that if the image isn't right or something isn't working, that it just won't flash. It's not going to like break your system. And so I felt kind of trustworthy of that, but this actually worked first try. I just grabbed the skulls image from my desktop onto the ThinkPad. The Ivy Bridge flash went through, system restarted, and we were back into skulls. Just like I did on the T530, I had to go back in like through a live USB and change my my kind of boot setup. I had to reinstall Grub and set it up for the legacy because Skulls uses CBIOS. It doesn't support UEFI. And so what I'll probably do now is build a new Coreboot image that uses, I forget what the UEFI, I think it's Tiano Core. That was good. You have to do things in the order that I just kind of described. I, once again, kind of skipped over this, but you want to do the EC flash first and then the Coreboot. The EC flash relies on a Lenovo BIOS in order to kind of hijack that process. And then when you're doing Ivy Rain kind of stuff, or otherwise the internal flashing with flash ROM for Coreboot or Skulls, you're only modifying the other 4MB BIOS chip. And so there is that separation, but the requirement here is the Lenovo BIOS for the EC flash, and then the Coreboot will not affect your EC chip afterwards. And so you just kind of have to be respectful of that order. I spent a lot of time thinking about this before this device showed up. It's why I kind of waited until everything arrived to do this stuff, and it worked out in the end. I'm very happy with the final product, and I guess now we can kind of talk about where we've arrived. The overall thoughts, now that it's all said and done, I'm really excited to just kind of daily drive this machine. The 9-cell battery warrants me, I would say, somewhere between 5 and 7 hours of battery life. There was a day where I forgot my charger, and I managed to, I have Godot, a text editor, an internet browser, all that going for, most of the afternoon without any kind of concerns. I started cutting back on background stuff. I killed the browser, started having Godot open as needed, focused on the text editor. But overall, I've been pretty happy with it. I've got the charge thresholds kind of set up for TLP. I'm going to try and keep this battery healthy as long as possible, especially since it's not an actual Lenovo battery. The keyboard is great. At first, I wasn't sure how I felt about this one. It felt like it kind of looked like the keyboard on the X230, but I wasn't sure that it was going to feel the same. But now that it's installed and I've gotten used to it, I really enjoyed the travel on it. The keys themselves feel good, and on the device it just looks great. I mean, with the old keyboard, it now kind of just mostly looks like an X220, and I do recognize that. But we have the benefit of the 3rd gen, so we have a bit of a bump in power over just getting an X220. And for me, just kind of the journey was very much worth it. I enjoy learning about this kind of stuff. I think kind of repeating these processes and going through the motions more is very valuable, as I'm kind of just trying to grasp all of this for the first time. I'm stoked about this laptop, and it's really cool to me that this turned from, the T530 came into my life and it was my first ThinkPad, and I was able to cover a lot of ground with it. Once I got the X201, I was able to kind of learn and realize some of the things that I wanted out of a ThinkPad, and I was able to find the X230. And now with the keyboard mod and the Coreboot, I've been able to kind of really bring it in and make it exactly what I want it to be. And I just think that's great. To me, I think that's the value of these older ThinkPads. I know I kind of gloss over it the way that I talk about them. There are some concessions that you're making using a laptop from 2012, but fundamentally the kind of freedom of choice, freedom of expression, and I mean, if you're willing to make just a little bit of compromise for the fact that it's a bit older, I mean, they continue to hold up very, very well, in my opinion. This really has been a great process, and despite the fact that it's so well documented, it was still very exciting for me to kind of do this on my own and kind of turn this from, I mean, it was like a bone stock, great condition machine, and to kind of take it, make it mine, very cool, very rewarding process. And I'm excited to kind of come back at some point kind of check back in and see where it's at. But for the time being, that's kind of the conclusion on my thoughts here on the X230. I really appreciate the support in the last couple of weeks while I've been gone. The channel is just shy of 260 subs now. That's really cool to me. We kind of flew past 250 and next stop is 500. So I appreciate all the support and I hope you guys kind of enjoyed a peek into what I've been working on lately. We're going to have some Godot stuff and some other Linux stuff like I talked about. We're going to be doing some Derive. And otherwise, I think I'm going to get into some projects that I'm looking forward to sharing once I kind of have a better idea of what those are going to look like and how we're going to share those on the channel. We're going to be doing a game jam at the end of next month. If nothing else, if there isn't a Black Dog update by then, we're going to have that. Probably some live streams, and alternatively, there's just going to be some video kind of content about that. So keep your eyes peeled. Really excited to kind of have some space and time over the summer to return to and focus on the channel. So once again, thanks for the kind of support in the last couple of weeks while I've been away and super busy. And otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the stuff today. And I'll see you guys sometime very soon.